Our next speaker is Sabanayagam Sridharan. He's the Director of Programs for the People Action for Free and Fair Elections in Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much. To be precise, I'm not going to rob a lot of time from you. I'm thankful to Michael for extending an opportunity to be with you and sharing our experiences. Sometime back, an expert from India came to our office and spent about a week or more with our staff in improving communication skills. So two things he said. One was, in communication, don't use the word democracy. Number two, never use the word fair and free and fair. So he must have thought and analyzed the situation in Sri Lanka, and probably that would have been the reason for him to remark. Elections in Sri Lanka were held in a relatively free and fair manner and peacefully till 1977. The election violence and malpractice were very, very minimal. But however, the parliamentary general election of 1977 saw violent incidents taking place, especially after the poll, involving damage to property and harassment of supporters of the losing party. The laws and procedures changed dramatically with the introduction of the second Republican Constitution of 1978. As a result, presidential elections and the conduct of referenda were introduced, and the most important thing is the proportional representation and the preferential voting system was introduced. Subsequent elections after that, especially the 1982 referendum to extend the life of parliament, saw the ugly head of violence rising, even at polling stations. The disturbing events of 1988 worsened the situation further. The Commission of Election was helpless, and the cooperation from the authorities responsible for the implementation of law and order was not enough. Civil society was concerned of the development, and in order to quell the situation, PAFFREL, which was formed in 1987 with national organizations like Sarvodaya, SEDEC, Marga, YMMA, the National Conference on Religion on Peace, they volunteered and observed the elections. Although the election laws do not permit outsiders to enter the polling stations, with the passage of time, it was seen that election observation by local observers also had an impact in curbing widespread violence and malpractices. As a result, in 2004, the Commission of Election permitted observers of PAFFREL and Center for Monitoring Election Violence to enter the polling station and observe polls. That is the turning point. Because in our constitution, there is no provision for a civil society organization to observe the election. I don't talk about monitoring, observe the elections. But when the commissioner was helpless, he had to rely on the support of the civil society. So that turning point was the 1988 presidential election, where the violence was beyond control. They could not control. So this is the past history. One of the prime objectives of PAFFREL is to promote a community effort that would prevent violence and malpractices before, during, on the day of the election, and after elections. So our strategy in observation is three-phased. The first phase is from the day of nomination. We observe the period. It's about 6 to 7 weeks. And on the election day, we have a different type of observation. And after the poll, for 2 weeks, we observe the post period. So the methodology what we use is, we have about 300 odd small groups registered, unregistered organization in our network right throughout the country. And we make use of their volunteers in observation. We give them adequate training, we give them legal support, and apart from that, yearly from 1st of June in our country, the electoral registers are updated. It's an annual revision. So we start from 1st of June, or even before that, in observing the process. Last year, there were about 42,000 people were left out of the register in the northern part, that is in Jaffna, the district, because of the negligence and indifference of the enumerators, who are generally the the village officers. So with our interventions, with our partners, we managed to bring in about 32,000 back into the register. And last year, in upcountry, in the district called Nuvarelia, where a lot of people are still out of the register, with our intervention, we managed to bring in about 19,000 eligible voters who are not registered earlier, thereby increasing the seat in the parliament by 1 for the district of Nuvarelia. So this has nothing to do with violence, but I'm talking the factors or cross-cutting themes that might lead to political violence. So in our methodology, we have 3 phases of observation. And for this exercise, we establish a unit in the head office. And at district, we have field coordinators and partners as district coordinators. And the separate unit is formed in the National Secretariat to receive and intervene when we receive the complaints. So the complaints come directly from the victims, sometimes from outsiders, sometimes the media people, sometimes the election local commissioners itself, they inform us. So we take up the case and find solutions by addressing them to the relevant authorities like the Commissioner of Elections. We speak to the law enforcement officers also. In times of election, we have all-party operation unit that is formed at the National Secretariat, in the sense of the Election Secretariat. And PAFFREL assists the Commissioner in establishing that. Members from the PAFFREL and CMAV, they get involved in the operation. So this is a system what we use to maintain that early warning systems, because before that takes place, the violence takes place or malpractice takes place, we get the information from some corner, and necessary action is initiated, responding to the issue without wasting much time. So we have found that to be very effective. And in order to prevent violations taking place or violence taking place, and to collect all these data-based electoral violence, we always have public campaigns that we start with the nomination day, 6 weeks before the election. So we give out leaflets, posters, and sometimes we have street dramas targeting the local population, and we have focal group discussion, pocket meetings, voter education programs, so that we disseminate information to the general public and the eligible voters to know that there's a system that is functioning in the central point, that is at National Secretary in Colombo, as well as in the districts, in case of emergency, to contact. And we always have negotiations with the political parties, not to involve people or candidates who have a bad record. So we have been trying to create a profile for all these candidates, but we could not so far succeed in that, because it's a very tedious and exercise which has to be done with a lot of caution. What we do is we discuss with the political parties, and they come to a consensus saying that they won't select people who are prone to violence. But that is only the word, because they don't honor the word at most of the time. But anyhow, comparatively, if you take 2004 elections, 2010, and now the provincial council election are going to take place on the 21st of September, the number of incidents have decreased. That may be because our presence in the field. And now, not only us, there are other monitoring organizations also in Sri Lanka. But we feel the presence of the observers that reduces the probability of these type of violations taking place. Now we do, in addition to that, electronic media and public programs through the print media also. Generally, sometimes radio program, we have the phone-in system, so people who are interested in getting more information, they can call back and ask. And we give situation analysis reports periodically through the media, so the information on this particular operation is shared with the ordinary people also.